Hi guys, I'm gonna show you how to draw cubes. So the cube is basically an object that in the top view looks like a square. Okay, so every side has the same length. So in the top view, pretty much a cube looks pretty much like this. Okay, so one cube is like this. The cube can be drawn like this, which is supposedly we imagine the horizon line very far from the cube, but we can imagine the cube to be placed parallel to the horizon line, or we can imagine the cube to be tilted to an angle like this. Okay, so again, this is the top view. There are many ways that you can imagine your cubes, but pretty much this is how it should look like in top view. Okay, so keeping this in mind, again, two groups of parallel line for one cube. If you have more cubes and they are all parallel one to the other, you still have two groups of parallel lines. Like for example, let's pretend that we have another cube here, very small, and then we have another one here. In this case, you see how 1, 2, and 3 cubes, they are parallel one to the other, so two groups of parallel lines. Okay, great. For if you decide that in your scene you also want to add another cube that has a different angle in the top view, and this is cube number 4, of course, in this case you are introducing a new couple of groups of parallel lines. Okay, so you will have one vanishing point for this, one vanishing point this way, so two vanishing points for this, but two vanishing points for this, and they will be different. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Again, it's all about controlling your design in the top view. In the top view, you decide what is going on. So when sketching cubes, make sure you have a nice horizon line, and then all you're going to do, I usually start sketching one vanishing point, a few lines diverging from that vanishing point. Of course, all these lines are going to be parallel lines. Remember, when lines share the same vanishing point, it means that they are parallel. And then it's a good idea to sketch 1 second vanishing point very far. Sometimes people like to set it outside the scene. Now these two groups of lines that I did, these ones, show you with red, all these lines share V1, which means that they are parallel one to the other. And in blue, I'll show you all these lines are sharing the same vanishing point, so it means that the blue lines are parallel to each other. If I introduce a new set of vanishing lines like this, vanishing for example to V3, and a new group of lines, in this case like this, V4, these are, again, the orange lines are parallel to each other, the green lines are parallel to each other. So now that I have a different sets, I'm ready basically to start building my scene. So I just go back and I'll show you what is going to happen here. Usually, to sketch a cube, I design, like I said, I'm gonna sketch one vanishing point, group of vanishing lines, and now I'm just going to design an object, making sure that the proportion that I do, they look like the ones of a cube. Okay, so a cube has all the sides that are, every face has the same size. So this could be my first cube. If you notice, I tried to design with darker lines that part of the object that is closer to the viewer. Okay, I'm going to sketch maybe another one here. I keep it very light. When I start doing the construction lines, I'm going to raise the height here. So again, it's very light. This part is closer to the viewer, so I'm just going to work with my line quality, and I want to make sure that this part is just darker. By doing this, as you can see, the quality of the drawing just improves. It looks more two-dimensional. So I did a couple of cubes. What if I want to design one cube that actually is flying? I can. I'm gonna use a vanishing point, and I'm also going to imagine a group of another vanishing point that in this case goes outside the scene. So this is the visible part. Vertical lines. I'm just trying to think of what part of the object is closer to the viewer. In this case, it's a fine object, so it's going to be the base. The base is going to receive better lines. And this is the upper part of the object. And make sure that the lines that are inside of the object should be very, very light. Okay, so that's a flying cube. Maybe I'm going to design a very big one right here, which is going to be parallel to the first one that I did. So this could be a new object that I'm designing. I think this is okay. So again, this is the visible part, and actually this line, which is actually closer to the viewer, is going to become darker because I want all the lines, when they get closer to the viewer, to become more dark, because I've seen that doing this I create a nice line quality. Why do I want you to do the part of the object that is closer to the viewer darker? Because in sketching, it's very important to create a focal point in the scene. The focal point is the biggest amount of contrast, which is black and white. When we have black and white in a drawing, our eyes are going to go and look for the focal point. So if I create an area in my drawing where there is the biggest amount of black, like in this case these lines here, if I do this, as you can see, I'm actually dragging my attention to this part of the scene. Because it's the bigger object, I think it's good to keep it very high contrast. So if I sketch a very small cube, like a flying cube here, I'm going to keep it very light because it's far, and I know actually from landscape drawing that every object that is very far from the scene, it shouldn't have any contrast. So if I sketch something out of the scene, it's too small, it doesn't have to receive the focal point, because the focal point has to go close to the viewer where there are going to be details and other, you know, additional components that we can add later on. But for now, just sketch cubes. Like for example, I'm going to sketch another one here using a new couple of, like, I'm imagining this group of lines going outside the scene, and they are going to use this vanishing point, vertical lines. And basically what I just did is a cube that is not parallel. So just give me the time to bring out the design lines properly. There was a mistake, but usually my approach is to keep the lines very light, and by doing this I can always fix mistakes. So this is my new cube. Because this cube that I just did doesn't share the same vanishing points as this, so 1, 2, and 3, they share B1 and B2. But this one that I would call like 4 uses different vanishing points. It doesn't share the same vanishing points as 1, 2, and 3. So what does it mean? It means that the cube number 4 is not parallel to 1, 2, and 3. So the number 4 would be a cube that in this case is something similar to 4. In this specific scenario would be something like this. Okay? My new 4 is this. As you can see, this one is not parallel to 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So remember, it's very important to control your scene, to understand what you're going to do in the top view, and then you switch to the 3/4 view. And you create a nice composition, keeping in mind that you need a horizon line and you need different cubes moving in the space. Make sure also that the proportions are those of a cube. Okay, so each side should look pretty much the same as the other ones.